I never could have guessed that a simple evening with friends would append everything I thought I understood about my marriage. It was meant to be nothing more than another casual night at home, dinner with Lucas and his closest friend, Daniel. But the way that night unfolded left me questioning far more than I was prepared to face. I'm 34, and Lucas and I have been married for just over 9 years. Like most couples, we've had our highs and lows, but I'd always believed we were steady and strong. Daniel had been in our lives for years, the kind of friend who naturally felt like family. He had an easy charm, a way of making everyone comfortable, always knowing what to say or when to show up. I'd always appreciated him, but that evening something felt different. It started so ordinarily. Lucas suggested a quiet dinner at home, just the three of us. I thought nothing of it. But when Daniel walked through the door, I felt an odd shift. Maybe it was the way he hugged me, his arms holding me just a fraction too long, or the way his eyes lingered when he pulled back. I brushed the feeling aside, convincing myself I was imagining things. Dinner began easily enough. Lucas and Daniel fell into their usual rhythm, trading jokes and old stories, their laughter filling the house. I stayed busy in the kitchen, pretending not to notice Daniel's gaze flicking toward me again and again. Each time our eyes met, there was a flicker of something I couldn't quite name, subtle but charged. Lucas and Daniel had always been close, closer than brothers, really. It wasn't unusual for them to get lost in conversation while I handled the meal, and normally I didn't mind. But that night, the air felt heavier, as though I was suddenly aware of something I couldn't unsee. When the food was ready, we gathered around the table. Lucas was relaxed, smiling, completely at ease, while I struggled to keep my thoughts straight. Daniel's glances weren't casual anymore. They carried a weight, as if he was trying to tell me something he couldn't put into words. Every time our eyes met, I felt a flutter in my chest I didn't want to acknowledge. After dinner, we moved to the living room. Lucas chatted easily, filling the silence, while Daniel sat a little closer than usual. His voice was softer when he spoke to me, every word landing heavier than it should have. Then Lucas stepped out to answer a phone call, and the air shifted instantly. Daniel leaned in slightly, his tone low, almost hesitant. "There's something different about you tonight," he said, his voice steady but quiet. I laughed lightly, trying to brush it off, but he didn't look away. "More alive," he added. "More present." My pulse quickened. I didn't know what to say. His attention felt like a magnet tugging at something I'd buried deep inside. Before I could form a response, Lucas's voice carried down the hallway, breaking the moment. Daniel leaned back, and just like that, the atmosphere changed. But the feeling stayed. That night, lying beside Lucas, I couldn't stop thinking about Daniel. His words, his gaze, the closeness between us that hadn't existed before, it all replayed in my mind. I told myself to forget it, to move on, but I couldn't. The days that followed only made things worse. Daniel came by often, just as he always had, sharing beers with Lucas and talking about nothing in particular. But everything felt different. I noticed every glance, every quiet smile, every pause that lasted just a little too long. I became painfully aware of his presence, and it terrified me. Lucas, on the other hand, hadn't changed at all. He was still thoughtful, still kind. But I began to feel a distance growing inside me, a quiet unraveling I didn't know how to stop. One evening while I was cleaning up in the kitchen, I overheard Daniel talking to Lucas in the next room. "You know," Daniel said, his voice carrying softly, "I've always admired how you two have made it work. It's not easy." Lucas laughed lightly, dismissing the comment, but Daniel's tone changed. "Yeah, but sometimes you wonder if there's more. More to life, more to love, more to really feeling. His words froze me in place. I stood at the sink, my hands trembling, unable to ignore the ache those words stirred inside me. The tension between Daniel and me only deepened after that. We never talked about it, but it was there, in every look and every breath. One Saturday, Lucas left to run errands, leaving me alone with Daniel for the first time since that night. We sat in the living room, the silence stretching until Daniel finally spoke. "You've been avoiding me," he said gently. "I haven't," I lied, though we both knew it wasn't true. He leaned forward, his eyes locking on mine. "You don't have to figure it all out right now. But you should know. I don't think what's happening between us is a mistake." His hand brushed against mine, a simple touch that sent my heart into overdrive. "You don't owe me anything," he continued softly. "But you owe yourself the truth about how you feel." I stared down at our hands, torn in a way I couldn't put into words. I loved Lucas. I didn't want to hurt him. But something inside me had shifted, something I couldn't unfeel. "I think I need time," I whispered, my voice steady for the first time in days. Daniel nodded. "Take all the time you need," he said, his voice warm and sure. "Just don't forget, you deserve to be happy."